Well. It is time, that time of day again. Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome to the live stream. And I gotta tell you, I'm excited to do some writing. Hello, everyone in the chat. How's it going? We are here for our 2-hour productivity Novella November live stream. You know how it goes. And I gotta say, today is one of those days. I was like this yesterday. Had to drink a whole bunch of coffee to feel like I was energetic, to feel like I was, ready to do this thing. Hello, Fosun. Hello, welcome. I had a bunch of coffee. Same thing today. Woke up a little earlier, had a couple cups of coffee, and it's dreary. It's raining outside. It's just a good day to write. Just Guy, welcome. Hello. Matt, hello, welcome to the live stream. Glad you all can make it. Yeah, here's a question for you. What's the best weather to write in? Do you like to write on a cloudy day, a sunny day, warm at the beach, in the snowy mountains? Where is the best place to go and write? What time of weather? Because right now we have a dreary, rainy, overcast day, and I've just got the feeling to do some writing. So it's going to be chill. We got our lo-fi music. Just Guy likes to write at night. Shout outs. We got our lo-fi music. It's going to be nice and chill. Depends on the mood of the scene. I feel that. And you know what? Every single time we've done these live streams, people are getting down hundreds, sometimes even thousands of words. And we're also having fun. Phantom, hello, welcome to the live stream. And that's what we're doing today. Some things off the very top of the live stream, some sort of housekeeping stuff. Shout out to Pro Writing Aid. Thank you for sponsoring the live stream. It's because of Pro Writing Aid that we don't have to run a bunch of ads throughout the live stream. You can join, you can watch, you can hear the lo-fi music, and you're ideally not interrupted as you are doing your writing. Pro Writing Aid, I use it on the live stream. I've been using it for years as my editing tool of choice. It's a whole tool set. You've seen the videos. You'll see it on my screen as well. In 2 days' time, I will be on the Writing Quest live stream hosted by our very own Coral Sands, one of the first 10 people to join the Discord. Shout out to Coral Sands. Very excited for that. Very much looking forward to it. I hope to see you guys there. There will be lots of writing Q&A style things. A great time to chime in and to just chat about writing. Let's see, what else? I think that's kind of it. I think that's all the groundwork we got to set up so that we can go into this live stream and just have a good time. Let's do it. Let me give you a quick update for those who maybe haven't joined the live stream in a little bit about where we're at. I have written mostly in the live stream. I have written a couple words off of the live stream just over the weekend. I'm at 4,100 words. I've got a couple different chapters here. Well, technically one chapter I have over on the left side. If you haven't seen this in a while, I also have my plot framework that I have put together here. Nothing super fancy. This is not some proprietary, cool new way of plotting out a story. I just have two specific kinds of plots I'm trying to hit on here. Storyline A, the actual events of my murder mystery novel, and storyline B, the romantic subplot that I'm trying to craft between these two characters. And so for my plot framework that I'm kind of trying to follow, I have all of these things kind of broken up around where I want them to happen in the story. These are not individual chapters, and all of these things are going to be accomplished in that specific chapter. This is just me trying to kind of align all my different kinds of events. All of these plot framework things you'll see not fully planned out. I don't personally think you have to plan out every single point of your novel before you start writing. I do think it is important to plan out sort of up to your inciting incident to really kind of try to get the vibe of your story early on. And then as you're putting your characters together, putting them in situations, you kind of figure out those kind of plot things. So I do not have my story fully planned out. Also, here's kind of a cool thing. If you go check out in the Discord, in the Novella November story workshop, I have a sort of a snapshot of my Scrivener file. And if you use Scrivener, you can open it up and see exactly what all I had planned out, written. Explore, have fun with it. One of the perks of being on the Discord. Yeah, all that being said, I think there's not much else to do but have a good time and write. So before we kick on the timer, Wolvie, hello! Welcome, Wolvie. Before we kick on the timer, before we put our heads down and start writing, do you have any questions, any roadblocks about your story that you need advice on, that you want to talk about before we start writing? Wolvie, doing pretty good. Woke up a little early today, trying to, I need a little caffeine in the system to get that energy up for the live stream. I'm working on it, but otherwise it's been a pretty good day. I hope you're doing well too. I'll open this up just for a second for questions, but then there's nothing left to do but to do some dang writing. Oh, Wolfie, well, thank you for jumping in and saying hi. Have a great rest of the day. See you around the Discord maybe, and of course, we're doing our live stream tomorrow as well. Thanks for stopping by. All right, I think that's about our cue to start doing some writing. So I'm going to put 20 minutes on the timer. 20 minutes on the timer. There we go. I'm going to turn the microphone off, turn the music up. And Juliet says, I can't write until this evening. 47,000 words and a big plot scene tonight. That is awesome. Of course, we'll be live tomorrow. And so, of course, feel free to join that one as well. All right. Microphone going off, music going up. Let's be productive. Let's have a good writing day. I'll check in with you guys after. Writing sprint number 1 is done. I'm just in the mood to write today. It feels good. How'd everyone do? What kind of progress did we make? I got 706 words, bringing me up to 4815 on the word counter. 4815. Let's go. Look at that. You love to see it. How'd everyone do? We still got Just Guy. Do we still have Salix? Do we have Matt? Phantom? You guys in the chat still? Exile says, I wrote just before you started streaming. Ah, oh, we missed the progress reports. We just missed it. I hope we made some good progress, though. How many words did you get down today? How many words? JBeard says, greetings. I imagine that's how you say it. Greetings. You're like a Jedi. I found I have some research to do, so no additional words, but I'm reading about potential jobs in a post-scarcity society. Ugh, my words. Hey, research still counts. That's progress. It's not words, and that's okay. But that's not the only way we progress in our stories. Love that. Exile made 1,500 words today. Let's go. Phantom says, how do you find the motivation to keep writing when you're going through stuff? It's happening to me right now, and I want to write, but I genuinely don't think I have the strength right now. Phantom, very first thing to say. Very first thing to say. Sorry you feel like you're going through some stuff. It happens. You know, it happens. Writing is one of those kind of art forms where it always helps when you're able to get into that headspace. Finding a way to easily get in that headspace is kind of a skill. For me, the hardest part of writing is ignoring all of the other distractions and sitting down and writing. And sometimes even then, kind of hard to just make yourself do it. There's a couple things I'd say. Number one is allow yourself to have days where you're off. That's totally okay. Totally okay. Allow yourself to have those days. It doesn't mean that you're, not doing something right, especially when we're in this context of like Novella November. It's okay. It happens to everyone. Happens to us, happens to Stephen King, I'm assuming, Brandon Sanderson. What they are doing as professional writers is just sitting down with that discipline to write, and they're also doing it a long time. We could, if we had 8 to 10 hours where we could just do it, that'd be nice. It's not always like that. Also, it kind of helps if you're able to develop writing as like a skill and a hobby as something that you can kind of disappear into. Not something that you have to sit in and be totally focused on and being in the right headspace or the right environment. But when it gets to the point where you're like, I want to write because I'm able to ignore those outside feelings, those outside distractions, those outside sort of worries that are trying to worm their way into your head. It used to be that I could only write if I was isolated, noise canceling headphones, cutting out all the distractions. I couldn't have my phone with me because I would want to play on that phone. But you know what? That writing process changes. And hope you're able to find it, as writing is, the dream is that it becomes the escape of all of those things, right? When you're stressed, writing is one of those ways that you can relieve some of that stress. But that's something that you kind of have to work on, finding that love and enjoyment in the process. So it's something that honestly comes with understanding how you like to write and finding that enjoyment in putting those words down and imagining those characters. Until you get to that point, it's a discipline thing, right? I'm going to write because I know I will feel better after having written. Until you get to that point, it is sort of like an exercise for sure. How do you find the motivation? I personally, if I need a spark of motivation, I go to writing books like Stephen King's On Writing. Hearing other people talk about like the joys of writing and advice that I can apply to my own writing makes me excited to go try that. to go try to find that joy or go try to apply those same skills. And I find that to be really beneficial. So everyone's going to have their own shortcuts. Maybe you have a writing video that inspires you. Maybe you have a content creator that you like. Maybe you have a writing book like I do that you can open up. Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird is like a warm hug from a writer friend, because they're always talking about like writing. It's like, here's why writing's so good. It's like you falling in love with your characters, and they phrase it in such a great way. I find that to be sort of like a quick burst of motivation if I ever need it. But also, there's this idea that these kind of live streams is a way to stay accountable. Whether or not you're in the live stream, whether or not you're watching a recording, or whether or not you're just letting us know about the progress you made outside the live streams. We want to root you on. We want to cheer you on, you know? It happens. It happens. Motivation and things like that, they come and go. They wax and wane. It happens. Exhaust says, is it okay to write a short chapter for my first novel, like 500 to 1,000 words a chapter? Exile, it absolutely is. I actually have a video going out in the next week or two about chapters, and I think I already put the books up. I took 5 or 6 different books of different genres to say, like, okay, like, what are the chapter lengths you can expect in different kinds of works? And chapters range from 750 words to 2,000 to 2,200, 2,500. And then the further away you get from like best-selling big publisher books, then authors can kind of do whatever they want. There's this fantasy series I talk about in that video called Malazan Book of the Fallen. And the author there has chapters that are 9 to 12,000 words. And even one chapter in one of the books that's over 100 pages. So the ideal chapter length, if you're trying to write for a general audience, you want to sort of average out at about 2,000 words. That means some chapters will be higher, some chapters will be lower, but that's like a good starting point. When's the next short story competition coming up? So glad you asked. I love doing those writing challenges. The next thing I want to focus, first off, is probably going to be December or January, I think, about for the next writing challenge. My big thing is to try to be able to find other writing content creators that I can bring in as judges. That's been the hardest thing about doing the writing challenges. It's easy to run them. It's easy to be excited about them and share them with the community. It's a lot harder to bring other people in to judge the stories, because, you know, they may have to end up reading 40, 50,000 words. And so like we have like our Discord sponsorship post that we just had with ProsWrite. That money, everything kind of spent in the Discord goes directly into trying to improve the Discord experience in different ways. So that's one of the big ways, is to find some other judges and be able to compensate them for their time. So I'd say December, January is what we're looking at. I'm definitely not going to try to do one in Novella November. Too much going on. Yeah, so that's the plan. Don't know what the theme is going to be yet, but I'm excited for it. It's a lot of fun. JB says, I've read a book where many of the chapters were 10 to 20 pages, but with occasional chapters less than 2 pages. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in terms of like chapters. Like you can kind of interpret it how you want. The closer you get to the like best-selling novel kind of idea, strategy, the closer you get to almost always having those 2,000 word chapters. All right. Good questions. Any other questions before we tackle our next thing? Chaotic Dival. Currently working on outlining the story of my visual novel. It's pretty massive, and I've never done anything like it before, but I love to challenge myself, apparently. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. A visual novel sounds like a lot of fun. You know, it's funny that you bring that up, because I have wanted to do a video for so long about storytelling in like graphic novels or visual novels, and how it compares to like the traditional novel. What can we learn? What's different? What are like tips and tricks that are used in one medium versus another? I've been exploring more graphic novels to kind of see how they do stories. Read a couple different graphic novels to try to learn from them. But I see visual novels pretty popular. Pretty popular. That sounds like a lot of fun. Keep us updated in the Discord. I would love to hear any advice you got regarding writing branching narratives. That's a tough one. Then you're getting kind of closer into like the video game storytelling, video game script writing. What happens if you choose dialogue A versus dialogue B? And how does it spider web out from there? That's tough. That's tough. Big topic. The best thing you can do is keep your story fairly linear, but I would imagine you want the dialogue to feel fairly, unique based on whatever path you choose. But there should be key points that you return back to simply for your own sake as the author, right? Crafting that story with those specific writing points that you want to get across. Maybe don't tackle a story that has 45 different endings as your first big visual novel project. Maybe tackle a story that has branching dialogue, but the story generally goes in one specific direction with these big major points everyone experiences. And then as you get better with it, then you can explore that crazy, diverse, branching Baldur's Gate 3 Undertale style, 50 different endings. Boostin says, I'm working on my graphic novel comic right now. No words, just a lot of drawings. That sounds like fun. I wish I could draw. I never could draw. I can do Photoshop, and that gets me most of the way with all my thumbnails and everything. But I can never quite do the drawing. Salix says, I have a question. How do you integrate odd quirks your character has without confusing your reader nor info dumping? That's a great question, Salix. I love that. I am a huge fan of quirky characters, and the best way you can, in my opinion, portray quirky characters. So you have like dialogue and personality quirks, and then you have action quirks. Those are two very distinct sort of things. So dialogue and personality quirks are going to make your character feel very unique and fun, right? And they're things that are present in the dialogue. Why is that important? Because almost all of your exposition should be done in dialogue, not in just narration and detail of the world, right? You don't want to have 2 paragraphs of your story talking about why this class system of your novel is being put down by the authorities. You'd rather have a scene where one character from this class system interacts with a cop in this authority. You would create a scene that explains that concept through a scene that we can watch and experience and all that stuff, as opposed to just writing a big paragraph of description. If you can have a character that's fun and quirky and all that personality is coming out through the dialogue, every time that person speaks, they're contributing to the world building, they're contributing to those character interactions, and they're contributing to their own personality because of how they choose to speak. So everything, I would say, step 1 is anytime you want to reinforce those kind of quirks, try to do so through that dialogue. But what happens if you have a character who has quirks based on their physical actions? Oh, let's use like an anime trope. We have that like cute little marketable, funny character that is alongside all of our heroes, that's in the party with them. How would you write about something like that? Because you can't take their dialogue and have that represent their actions. I think the big thing here is you got to be mindful about, yes, you need to focus on that quirky character when you're establishing that character, because that's when you're like, hey, this character has like these kind of quirks. But after that happens, you're telling just a normal story. You don't need to reinforce that every single interaction. Your character can be fairly normal in how they speak and how they interact with people and still have quirks, right? It doesn't have to be present in every single line of dialogue that they speak, because that could be kind of like, think about Jar Jar Binks in Star Wars. Every single time that dude spoke. Oh my God. Yes, I get it. Miso Jar Jar. Like, yeah, I understand. At some point, you just need to put some of the onus on your readers to say like, okay, I know this character has this kind of dialogue quirk or the way that they speak. I'm going to have that reader just now experience that character in a normal way and fill in all the details in their mind. That's a key point there. Now the idea about info dumping. Info dumping is a direct result of not being able to present your exposition through dialogue. Some people are going to be like, what does that mean? What does that mean? There is a writing book that I read, and you can find my video on this, Dialogue by Robert McKee. And they specifically describe exposition, which is the idea that we get for info dumping, as how much world building is done through narration as opposed through action and dialogue. So like exposition is telling your reader everything that they need to know to fully enjoy the story, and doing it poorly is doing that through narration as opposed to character interactions and dialogue. So you can info dump in a much more tactical way by just having it be through characters talking and interacting with the world as you're moving your plot. Last thing I'll say about it, Salix. I know I'm overwhelming you with information. Very last thing I'll say about it is your reader doesn't need to know every single thing right now. Your reader does not need to know every single thing right now. Instead, your reader needs to know what's relevant at that point. You don't need to explain the whole world to the reader in your opening chapter. You just need to know, okay, my character woke up. They don't remember anything. Clearly, we're in a sci-fi world. They're walking around confused. All right, we've done that. Let's move on to the next chapter where they finally interact with another character. And now we suddenly, through the dialogue, understand what year it is. They've been asleep for however long. Oh my God, oh, this is crazy. If we had spent that first chapter saying all of that stuff in narration, our character hits a button on a screen and gets a paragraph about who they are, gets a paragraph about what year it is and why they woke up so late on this massive spaceship, that would be info dumping. But if we tease out those details through character interactions and dialogue over the course of these next couple chapters, that is good writing. I know that was a lot of information. Hit me with any extra questions you got on that, any follow-ups. How do you show a mute character living with his pet dog? That's a tough one. I've read some stories that... Okay, hold on. Let me take a step back. How do you show a mute character living with his pet dog? Must have to do more with body language, right? All right, so first thing. When you're planning your novel, be careful not to plan yourself into a corner, right? I use the example of choosing to write a story about a singular person waking up on a spaceship when they weren't supposed to and being the only human in the spaceship walking around with their thoughts, maybe with an AI. You are limiting yourself through planning a story like that. And you know what? If you can do it well, great. In fact, you can kind of append this phrase onto every bit of writing advice you'll ever get, unless you do it well, right? Don't do an info dump and choose to always do your world building through dialogue unless you do it well, right? You know, like you can always kind of append that there. There have been stories I've read where they have characters who can't speak, that we get sort of their... expression of language. Let's say they do sign language. We get their expression of language presented as its dialogue, right? So through like, maybe instead of it with quotes, it's italicized, but we're still getting like he or she signed. Now, how do you speak to a dog? Well, my dog knows that I can say, do you want to go outside? And they get super excited, but we've also taught them like this sign just out of fun. If my dog sees me do this, they know that means we're about to go for a walk, right? But you can still do the same sort of thing. Do you want to go outside? Our character signed, dog loses their mind. I've seen some stories do that. All right, any last questions before we hit our next 20 minutes? Yeah, J Beard talks about putting things in italics. Yep. Universal body language. Yep. But you are kind of planning yourself into a difficult spot by choosing to write that kind of story. Now, if that's a story you want to tell, great. But you're making it a little harder on yourself. All right. I think it's time. So outside of this, when we come out of our next 20 minutes, I should be 5,500-ish words, I imagine. Kind of fun. Just an idea. We'll add extra points for sure, for sure. All right. 20 minutes on the clock. Everyone, I will see you on the other side. Microphone going off, music going up. Good luck. Good luck. We've done it. Another 20 minutes. Feel good about what I'm writing. I'm digging this. I love, and I don't know if this is cheesy. Chicken Man, hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you here. Chicken Man. I don't know if this is cheesy, but I always like doing this. I like ending chapters with this idea of like a character having like a sinking feeling in their stomach, but them also being in a situation where they don't know if that sinking feeling is because of what they feel inside or like something else that's happening. So like I just ended this chapter with he hoped that the feeling in his stomach was because of the sinking elevator. I love lines like that. Feeling good. Feeling good. I'm at 5,570 words. Update the counter. 5,570 words. Look at that. How'd everyone do? How'd everyone do? They said, yeah, it's cheesy and I love it. I'll do it till the day I die. How'd everyone do? What kind of progress we get in the chat? Love that elevator sinking feeling, right? Right? So something to share. I don't know if your stories are going like this. Phantom added about 52 words. Love it. Don't know if your stories are going like this. But with mine, I set my word goal to be fairly short. Xavier says more research, much better understanding where I'm going with the story. Love it. I was using this plot framework that Tanya's writing room. Hello, welcome. Glad to have you here. I was using this plot framework that said, hey, part 1 of your mystery story should be set up in about 10% of your total novel. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to set my word goal at like 50,000 words. I think at the rate that I write and the time that I'll be writing, that'll be feasible. I'm already at 5,000 words, and I am about this far through this part 1 setup. So I knew right away when I was doing my plot framework that this was not going to be feasible. I'm not going to get through all of part 1 of this mystery novel in 5,000 words, where I'm going to have the opening image, character introductions, hint of something wrong, the inciting incident, all of these things. And you know what? I'm not even worried about it. Not even worried about it. So if you find that when you're writing your story, the kind of ideas that you had in regards to word count and pacing isn't quite lining up with how you planned it, that's okay. That is okay. Do not freak out. It happens. Just guy says, I got about 300. 300. Love it. Good progress, everyone. Good progress. Good progress. I got my 2 love interest characters interacting, had them have a fun scene. Not exactly a meet cute. I'm not really writing romance novel, but I do have a romance subplot. So I put them in a situation together where they can kind of learn a little bit about each other and bond over something shared. In the case for this story, we have these 2 outsiders in this small town. And so like noticing the weird things about the small town that you're in, not really feeling like you can share that with the other small town residents, but with this new outsider, you can be like, oh my God, what the? Tanya says, I'm writing book 1 in my high fantasy world. Goal is 50K this month. I love that. I love that. Tanya, I don't know if you were part of our writing Discord, but we have a whole Novella November section of our Discord. People are sharing progress reports. They're sharing details about their story, getting feedback and critique and all kinds of great stuff. You should definitely check it out in the link below. 50,000 words. For some people, that seems like an astronomically high number. For other people, that seems like a very feasible number. Everyone's going to be different. And it all comes down to how often you get to write, because everyone's going to be different about that, and the pace at which you write. I write really quickly. So personally, that sort of 50,000 word goal is very feasible. But If you write at a different rate, if you have different opportunities to write, adjust your word count goal to reflect that. Don't set a super ambitious goal where, let's say you write 40,000 words, but you consider it to be a failure because you wanted to write 70,000 words. You just wrote 40,000 words, dude. You know what I'm saying? Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. All right. Any questions about your writing? Any sort of roadblocks that we're hitting? Any feedback you need? Any questions about planning, plot frameworks, characters? I feel like we made some really good progress today already. See what we got going on back over here. Donnie says age range of species in high fantasy. Oh my gosh. Negative infinity to positive infinity, maybe, is your range. Like, how do dwarves live versus a dragon? Here's the great thing, Tanya. You are the master of your own fate. You are the captain of your soul. You are the author of your world. You get to make up the rules. Which means if dwarves are going to live 500 years and dragons are going to live a millennia. Yeah, Salix says no rules play God. You can do that, right? Here's the question. Why in your fantasy world, let's just use like the dwarves as an example. Why should they live longer than a normal human lifespan? Why should they live a human lifespan versus an extremely long lifespan? But you're basing all of that on the tropes of the genre, what other people have decided for the rules. You get to change that if you, or you get to use those agreed upon tropes how you want to. You can pretty much always find an example to support what you want to do in your story. Justin says, I would like it if you did a breakdown on that outline and all the small beats you think could go into optional and otherwise. All right, Justin, here's the deal. I'll give you the brief rundown. So, first thing to say, I started not with a plot framework. I don't think, personally, you should start planning your story by going to a plot framework. I find that the order that the details come into mind as I'm just kind of like trying to figure out the composition of my story are not going to align with how a plot framework puts all their information out there. I like to start with something called a plot dump, which is just me saying like I have this rough idea of like a story in my head. I'm just going to write and get those details down, right? So I started my plot just by saying like here's like the things I have in my head, let's get them down. So I just did a word vomit of all of the details that I had in my head. And then once I got some of that down, enough to say like, okay, I kind of know how my story is at least going to start. Then I started to consider a plot framework. Other people might want to do a plot dump of their entire story, and that's totally okay. Other people might want to pants their way through more of their story as opposed to plotting it out. But when I did feel ready to work with the plot framework, I looked around specifically for a plot framework somewhere out there that resembled kind of what I had in my head for my story. What does this mean? Let me tell you, this is an important point. Let me get my mouse cursor over here. Important point. When you're looking at a plot framework, there is no singular king of plot frameworks that's going to work super well for every single story that you will ever write. Some people will say, hey, the hero's journey is universal. Every story is a hero's journey. You can work it in this way or that way. Other people will say, save the cat is ubiquitous. Every story could be twisted into save the cat to figure out the pacing and the plot and all the story beats. What I like to do is I have a pretty basic plot framework in my head. It's kind of like a 3-act plot framework, but it's the idea of story recursiveness from The Story Grid by Sean Coyne, where they say, all right, your story has act 1, 2, and 3. Okay, act 1 has your inciting incident and your climax of act 1 and like all these things, like here's the elements of act 1. But story recursiveness is that like you can break every single story, act, and scene, maybe even chapter with those same elements. So I have that in my head. And I started looking around, what's a way I can try to organize this story into a way that kind of already makes sense with what I have ticking around in my head. And so I found this mystery structure by author Zara Altair, is I think how you pronounce it. Let me share my screen here. And simply it says, part 1 is the setup. Spend 10% of your novel doing the setup. Part 2 is discovery. Spend 40% of your novel having your characters discover the things of this crime for the story that you're saying. Part 3 is 40% of the funnel as you close in on the killer of your story, and then finally your reveal. And so I took this and I scrolled down, and there were all of these little tips about, like, in your introduction and setup, here's the sense of time and place, introduce your characters, demonstrate your characters' sleuthing skills. And I was like, it's not like super relevant to me, but I'm gonna take it anyways. So I brought that over to my plot framework. I came down here to the bottom of my document. This is before I built this table. And I put down part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and here's all the kind of things I want to accomplish in them. I took those little percentage values and said, okay, if I'm writing a 50,000 word story, here's roughly how it would play out. I made some changes. Like, for example, I don't have like a sleuth character. I don't have like a Sherlock Holmes kind of detective. I have like a dude who's in this small town and things start to go wrong and he wants to make them right. So I don't really need to show off their detective skills so much as I need to show off their like sense of justice maybe. So I made some adjustments to what kind of things needed to be accomplished in each chapter. And then I brought that up into a table. And I started to write sort of a synopsis of what each one of these things kind of needs to do in my story. The opening image has our main characters showing up in this town and meeting these other characters and where they need to end up. This character introduction is when my 2 romance characters kind of meet. Hint of something wrong, here's like this thing that's happening, right? I just started putting a little synopsis in here. You'll notice I got through part 1, I started writing for part 2, and then I didn't finish things before I started writing. That's okay. You also notice I have a storyline A and B. Storyline A is the like external events of your story. In my case, in like this mystery thriller, the finding of the body. And all the things I go into trying to solve that crime. That is the storyline A of my story. Storyline B tends to be the more human side of your story that has characters go through some sort of change, right? The example I always use is that 3rd Indiana Jones movie. The events of the movie are about Indiana Jones finding the Holy Grail and everything that happens along the way. Storyline B, though, if you watch that movie, starts with Indiana Jones not really being recognized by his father as like his own person. He's always Junior, and he doesn't really have his father's respect. And as the movie goes on, they get a little bit closer, they learn to trust each other, and at the end of the movie, instead of being called Junior, the first time he's called Indiana. And his father believes in him. That's storyline B. That's the human side that enacts change in our characters. And so I chose to plot out storyline B as well. And I'm doing a romantic subplot. So I took Romancing the Beat, which is, in my opinion, the best romance plot framework. And I modified it because I'm not truly telling a romance story. I'm telling a romance subplot. And then I worked that into my table. So in these cases, I kind of have everything organized by beat, but I also go in here and I say like, okay, around this time of the story where I am introducing these 2 characters together, I also want them to want these 2 characters to have their first initial interaction of like, hey, like we met each other, we have something in common. Here's the start of our character interaction that's going to develop over storyline B. Now, I put this in the table. I did not do that same thing for Starlight Farms Kennel for Talking Dogs. Starlight Farms Kennel for Talking Dogs, I just had a normal plot framework. Act 1, here's what needs to happen. Act 2, here's what needs to happen. Act 3, here's what needs to happen. So this table, just a way to try to organize the information in an easier way. So each one of these points is not like an individual chapter of the book. It's just a part of my story where I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z. and to have it organized in a way that I can scroll through and say, check, I did this, check, I did that, check, I did this. And maybe the most important thing, it's okay, you deviate. This is not law, it's not written in stone, it is a guide, and you may take detours and shortcuts along the way. That's okay. Any questions off of that? Boosin says, let's just say you went for a hike on a snowy mountain expecting to come back down less than a day. What would you bring that would fit on your person? Well, if I knew I was going to hike up a snowy mountain, I'd probably bring all the right clothes, an emergency blanket, knife, some sort of emergency kit. If I'm going into the snow, I'm prepared to get lost in the snow. You'd have to be crazy to say I'm going to hike up a snowy mountain and like not bring an extra pair of gloves or like a way to start a fire. But hey, maybe your character's crazy. We already had our first day of snow here in Wisconsin. We had like 3 inches of snow. Came down one night, maybe like October 30th, maybe? Excuse me. It's like the day right before Halloween. Of course, it didn't stick. It got melted the next day. But hey, we had the snow, and dude, I don't know what it is. When you're in the fall and all the grass is already like dead and it snows, suddenly your property looks so much nicer. It's like a winter wonderland. Sonny says, oh boy, no snow in Manitoba, which is very odd this time of year. I don't know if it was like this over in Manitoba. Last winter, we had only like 4 days of snow, it felt like, in Wisconsin. And the winter before that, we had like a big snow early November that it was like 18 inches of snow that was there for the rest of the winter, and it was a nightmare. But this year so far, we'll see. You never know what's going to happen. It's always a surprise. Look at us talking about weather, just chatting it up. Like a bunch of old people. Look at us. Look at us. No snow yet in Toronto. We just had the 1 day so far. Everyone loves talking about the weather. You know, I did a video on dialogue lately, and the book I was reading, Dialogue by Robert McKee, says there's a difference between dialogue and conversation. Conversation is a pastime, but dialogue leads to action. All right, so conversation would be like, oh, the weather today. How about that? Right? And dialogue would be like, is it snowing outside? Because we're going to go skiing, I guess. By the way, we went skiing for the first time last year. It was a disaster, but we had a great time. Jay Sam says it's going to be up to 80 tomorrow in New Jersey. Let's see what it's going to be like for us. It's kind of warm right now. 45-ish in my area. High of 45, high of 50. Lows of 40 something. Justin says, what's that kid's book? Everyone poops. A more friendly version of it is Everyone Hates the Weather. And man, I gotta tell you. So like, I think this is a Southern thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, if this is not just a Southern thing. Or, I don't know. We'll try to narrow it down. But it kills me. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves when I'm talking to someone. We mention the rain, and they go, yeah, that rain. But you know what? We needed it. Oh, I hate it. I want to like, you need this. How about that? Oh man, and you know what? It's like I used to live in Atlanta, but I had a bunch of family in Louisiana. Bunch of extended family in Louisiana, and they were the ones who are always like, "Ah, the rain, but yeah, we need it." And then I moved out here to farm country in Wisconsin. Now every time it rains, someone's like, "Yeah, it was raining, but you know what? We needed it." Oh, stop saying that! It drives me crazy. Just says, if it could just be early fall 12 months a year. Yeah, here's the question. Is fall better than spring? Is fall better than spring? Do you like everything waking up or everything slowly dying? I guess is the other way to phrase that question. Tanya loves the fall. I get it. I love the crunchy leaves on the ground. I love it. But, yeah, Tanya says it's refreshing after the heat. I don't live in a very hot place, so that part of fall is not so much relevant in our area. But when I lived in Atlanta, that was important. Here's the deal. We have like 20 acres where we live. And in our big pasture that we have behind our cabin, when that spring comes, you get thousands of like dandelions growing. You can just like drive through fields of yellow dandelions. Even 2 years ago, we made dandelion tea. Picked a whole bunch of those yellow dandelions in a big bucket. I broke them all apart to a big like cheesecloth. Let them steep in some hot water. Add some sugar because it's bitter. A little earthy. Some people make dandelion wine, which I don't know if I'd ever be bold enough to be like, here's a bunch of weeds out of my yard. I'm going to make tea out of it, and then I'm going to stick it on the windowsill in the sun for a week and drink it after that. I think it's called botulism. Shout out botulism. Just kidding. Don't shout out botulism. It just seems like a bad idea. I don't know if I'm bold enough. Like, look, I get it. I'm a fan of sourdough starter. I'll get fermenty. I'll do it. I don't know if I'll ferment my own dandelion wine on the windowsill. That's crazy. Dandelion root tea tastes like coffee. You know what? Yeah, that's pretty cool. The dandelion, I believe, is on, one of those plants where you can eat every part of it. And I know I prefer listeria. I can't remember if it was World War II or the Civil War. I'm pretty sure it was the Civil War. They used to use, they couldn't make, they didn't have all the coffee beans that they wanted to make coffee in the morning. So they substituted and cut their coffee with chicory roots. And now, even if you go down into like New Orleans or some places in Louisiana, they still, like traditionally, you can get coffee that's cut with chicory root. It brings the U.S. Civil War. I guess I should clarify. This is the international audience. 'Tis the international audience today. But yeah, now it's like chicory roots and coffee. Cut it. It tastes a little different, but it's basically just bitter coffee. I would try dandelion root tea. I'm not opposed. I'm open. I've never heard of steamed nettles. Is that just like an evergreen tree pine straw in hot water? Survivor Man does that. Shout out Survivor Man, Les Stroud. Stroud. Stinging nettles. I do not want to drink stinging nettle tea. Call me, you know what? Hot take. Don't want to drink stinging nettle tea. Sorry. Hot take, I know. Hot take. Shout out Listeria. I should stop saying that. That's not good. Don't shout out. All right, all right. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Touching stinging nettles, not fun. Correct. Correct answer. Also make them into soup. They stop stinging after they flowered. See, I'd be the guy who'd make that mistake. Be like, these are probably good. Now, we've had stinging, not needles, but stinging nettle, I think is what the plant was. I was one time my dog dropped their toy under the deck through this little hole in the deck wood. I was reaching under the deck to get that little dog toy, just reaching. And there is a plant here. I had to get out of my way and just like brush by it. And it just like stung me all up the side of the hand. It all turned red. I had like these like veins coming out of it. All for a dang dog toy. I tell you, the things we do for our pets. But I tell you what, I got every single one of those stinging nettles, demolished them. Not around our property, not anymore. Shout out stinging nettle. All right. Here's the deal. We have one more riding sprint. I once landed head first. Whew, also bad. Hands first into a patch of stinging nettles. Not fun. Confirmed. Myth busted. Not fun. We are going to do one last riding sprint. And if you do this riding sprint, if you stick it out, if you put your head down, do a little bit of work, a little bit of productivity, here's the deal. You will have written for over an hour. Yeah. Let's see. We'll be an hour, about an hour of riding. That's awesome. Maybe an hour and a half. I can't remember how many sprints we've done. Let me tell you, that's productivity. That's productivity. So we're going to do one more riding sprint. Let's be productive. Let's make progress on our story. And let's finish strong. If you have it, take a shot of your nettle tea. You got your dandelion root tea. And you need that little pick-me-up. You know what to do. You know what to do. Let's do our last riding sprint. Way-ho, let's go! Chicken Man in chat blowing it up. All right, I'm putting 20 minutes on the clock. Finish strong. Finish strong. You can do this. Microphone going off, music going up. Let's go. Shout out to the new subscriber. I recorded that guitar sound effect and put it in yesterday. You're the first person to hear it. And with that, they have been productive. We did it! Let's go! You know, I gotta say, as someone who never did group writing, I see the appeal. I see the appeal in a group being together and saying we're gonna put our head down for the next 20 minutes and write. When if I was doing it myself, I might put my head down and start writing and then like want to go get a snack. Any snackers in chat? Let's go. How'd everyone do? What kind of progress did we get for our last sprint? I got down to a total of 6,286 words. Did 2,000 words today. 2,000 words. It is inspiring. There's something to be said for just like being with a couple other people and like doing the thing. You know what I mean? Jeff, always nice to have you here. I appreciate you being so active in the chat. It's way more fun when you got people to talk to. Shout out Jeff the Beard. How'd everyone else do? I know we have some people still in the planning phase, some people still who are trying to get their story idea down. Some people were writing in the middle of a huge novel. JSam got 2,500 words today. That is awesome. Good job. Good job. Incredible progress. I'm digging it. I love it. I got a total of 2,100 in our sprint today. Pretty good. Pretty good. Beard crew, let's go. You know, I still got to film a video today. I'm doing a video today on the quest. Chicken Man said I got home next to nothing today. Got home too late. It happens. It happens. Don't beat yourself up. Ooh, designing my character's cloak and bag. I love that. That sounds like fun. I'm doing a video today on what's called the quest, which is to say that like the majority of stories that we are familiar with, even if you go way back in human history, have to do with a quest, a very clear goal to achieve, ramifications if we don't achieve it. Everything from the Epic of Gilgamesh, a quest for eternal, immortal life. King Arthur and the quest for the Holy Grail. I'm talking about how to craft a quest for your story. So I'm filming that today. I did a lot of 3D Blender animation for this video. See how that goes out, how that works. Could be a good one. Feel good about it. Gilgamesh sounds like a funny parody. Yeah, this it kind of feels like an Always Sunny in Philadelphia kind of parody. Someone misspoke and now they have to tell the entire Epic of Gilgamesh. Oh man, we've had a good time today. I'm gonna go ahead and sort of wrap up the stream here so I can go have a lunch with my wife. It is lunchtime over here. Let me remind you of a couple things to wrap up the stream. Number one, shout out to Pro Writing Aid. Use my code WritingTheory10 at checkout for 10% off of Pro Writing Aid. Is because of them we don't have to run ads throughout the entire live stream. So that is awesome. Thank you to Pro Writing Aid for sponsoring small creators. Writing Quest, in 2 days time, I will be on the live stream for Writing Quest, doing a Q&A, talking about writing stuff. It will be a great time for you to come swing in. This will be around 7 o'clock Central Time, which is right in the middle of our normal afternoon live stream slot for the US, so like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday stuff. I will tell Coral Sands that everyone says hello here. It will be much too late for a lot of you if you are over in the in Europe, some of those other time zones. You will find the VOD. You can watch that after if you are interested in a little Q&A about writing stuff about me, about writing Starlight Farms Kennel for Talking Dogs. You know I'm already pretty transparent about all this stuff, but it'll be a lot of fun. If you didn't know, I offer developmental editing and book coaching. You can find those on my website. The difference, developmental editing, you can bring a manuscript you've already finished, and we can have a 2-hour meeting after I read it, talking all about all the different ways that you succeeded and areas you can improve on. And book coaching, if you're interested in having someone in your corner along the way as you write a novel, these are meetings that we have throughout your writing process to make sure your story can be as great as it can be. Check that out on my website, writingtheory.com/coaching, or just go there and see the big red coaching button in the top right, and you can go read more about it. Shout out to our new subscriber that we got in the live stream. You're the first to hear my brand new subscription sound effects I uploaded, and there's also a special one for super chats, which I don't really know how to do super chats. If only someone could show me how to do super chats in this live stream. That sounds like begging. I'm not going to do that. I'm above that. Thank you everyone who joined. It was a lot of fun. I hope to see you on Thursday, same time. And if you find that you are able to join us on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time slot, I will see you there tomorrow. Everyone, good job today. Peace out. Stay productive. Good writing. Proud of you guys. I'll talk to you on Thursday. Peace out.